Hello, Snuggly Welcome to today's Whizbang Workshop card review, where today we're going over the Hunter cards that have been recently released. I know at this point, I guess going live probably a few days ago, easy, but I just prefer to do my card reviews after the set is announced. That's just me. I feel like I get better reception, so let me know, I guess, what your thoughts are in the comments down below on that. But first of all, here, we do have a 2-mana card spell for Hunter, obviously, called Fetch, which is draw a minion, and if it's a beast, draw a spell. So, first off, I mean, could be 2 mana, draw 1, tutors a minion. That's not great, in my opinion. Obviously, if you can draw a spell, it's 2 mana, draw 2, which is obviously really good. And you know that it's going to be draw a minion and a spell. So again, in beast-based decks, which usually for Hunter, they tend to fluctuate between, beast. Hunter tends to almost always be some form of archetype, whether it's actually beasts in here or just the minions they choose happen to be beasts. So as long as the majority of your minions are beast, if not all of them, I feel like this is going to be played in any of those Hunter decks. And even if you just play high volume or 50% of your minions are beast, you'll probably play this because Hunter doesn't typically have a good draw engine. So I guess depending on, what type of deck you have, you have 2 mana left over, you kind of just play this to go through your beasts. So I think this is going to be played in most Hunter decks. And then, of course, obviously you won't if you're not playing any beasts whatsoever. 2 mana draw a minion is just not great. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I think this is just a great card, common. It's going to be in almost everything. Next up, we have our first toy dinosaur, literally the toy Rhinoceros, which is 7 mana, 7/6, rush, and then deal 5 damage to a random enemy minion. So we've seen similar stat minions, actually, probably more like 6 mana, 6/6 rush type things lately. So the added attack for 7 mana probably wouldn't be played other than Death Rattle dealing the 5 damage to a random enemy. Means, of course, you can trade this into something, potentially try to force the 5 damage to go to your opponent's face, because it doesn't have to be to a minion, as well as, you could rush, get your value trade, then maybe have this trade into something else and deal 5 damage. This becomes the potential, especially if you cheat it out, high value, mid to upper level card in the Beast package. This toy Rex, I just noticed that. That's great. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is like, because we're going to be losing the colossal minions, my brain, but I believe that is 100% accurate. So, for example, we're not going to have Hydralodon anymore. Hydralodon? That seems wrong. Why is my brain not working? Anyway, you get what I'm saying. The Hunter Colossal. So this is kind of maybe replace the 7 mana rush, try to clear some of the things on the board minion. So in that sense, depending on what else fits this mana cost, like Beast Hunter typically, and Hunter has a lot, tends to be very tempo-y, right? Tempo based. So it's really going to depend on what else fits in the 7 slot. But as of right now, I would say this is a good card, but not jumping out at me as something that is a must play either. So I think it's really gonna, not to repeat myself too much, but it's gonna really fit into what hits in the 7 mana curve for the Hunter deck. Next up, we have our first egg in a while, or at least from what I can remember, one of our first eggs in a while. And this one has the miniaturize ability, which is Death Rattle, get a copy of a random beast in your deck, and then it costs 5 less. So again, yes, it's a 5-minute card, but of course, if we go back to the Toyosaurus, that kind of helps you prep to make this a 2-mana 7/6 rush, right? You kind of get the 5 mana back, which makes it feel pretty good. And then admittedly, the miniaturized version, little tiny egg inside, also gives you a 5-mana discount. So this becomes like a 6-mana, 10-mana discount. Now, these don't have taunt. Now, the 1/1, that's not as big of a deal, because of course you can attack with it because that's one attack, but you got to figure out a way to kill this egg, right? And I'll be going through the other cards here shortly to see if there are anything that triggers that. My initial instinct here is kind of slow on turn 5, and I say this because, like I just mentioned, Hunter tends to try to be very tempo based. So to play a 5 mana effectively do nothing this turn to try to build up for next turn might be a bit risky in that playstyle, to be perfectly honest with you. But at the same time, because it's got the miniaturize keyword, getting that off twice in the long run is huge. So I think, again, it's going to come down to, do you have other 5-cost cards you want to play in the Beast deck? And if so, it's probably better than the 5-mana discount later, in my opinion. Or, again, if we see other cards that maybe help you trigger this Death Rattle for an additional bonus effect or something, But my initial instinct is sounds really good, but surprisingly, it's not sounding like something that is going to be worth it. Just based on how at least I like to play Hunter, anyway. Maybe we'll see. This could be one of those ones that I have a hot take on that I am completely wrong. So, all right, then we have a two mana spell called Patchwork Pals. Get all 3 animal companions, and they cost 1 less. So this adds them to your hand. Obviously, you get the Huffer, Leok, and Misha. But then they become 2 mana cost just minions. So effectively, you get a 2 mana Huffer. That's really the main thing you're probably looking for. Maybe a 2 mana Misha. It's really good. All of these cards are really good for 2 mana. However, of course, you have to then put in that you have to do a 2 mana do nothing, technically, up front. So I think this is a good Highlander Hunter card, and I say that because it kind of gives you value in the late game. You wouldn't want to keep this early, at least in my opinion. You're probably going to want to get this mid-game to play with something else that's 2 or 3 mana, so you can have the animals to be flexible in what you need, right? Do you need charge? Do you need taunt? Do you have a board? You want to play Leok, right? You kind of use this to give you those 2 mana outs, but because of that, you're not going to want to play this on 2 and then follow up with these. So like it kind of puts into this weird spot where you just need to weave in 2 mana versus probably wanting to play it on 2. But I think it's overall just good, mainly because, like I said, you get a Huffer, right? Charge is pretty rare now, so giving yourself a charge minion is great. I think this will just see a lot of play, even if it won't be a game-defining card. It'll be played in a lot of Hunters for that reason. Next up here, we have a location for Hunter called Jungle Gym, which is adorable. Yeah, I work out in the gym, the one with all the plushies and toys. I should read more of those. And it is a 3 health, I guess, location that is deal 1 damage to a random enemy and then repeat for each friendly beast. So I would say you probably want 2 to 3 beasts on the board to make this good. Again, as of right now, we haven't seen too many board filling type beasts, so I don't know how good this is going to be, but at the same time, it's random enemy, which means, you know, you could just sort of sit on this until you get an opportunity to even ping your opponent's face for like 1 or 2 damage at a time. It could be good, you know, two mana. Like I said, if you average 2, it's like fireball over time. But again, I could be wrong. I might be missing out on a big, wide beast card, or there's one to come. That, like I said, those who don't watch our card reviews here, I guess real quick, I will say, like, I try to come into these as blind as possible to give my more honest review and opinion. So sometimes, unlike other people, I might not come into these with, oh, here's how you can use this to make it either broken or not broken. It's more of my reaction, I guess, to the card than a review. Anyway, you get it. You get it. Let me know if that's what you like, because this is, in my opinion, that's what I enjoy. I like these blind reaction type things. So, yeah, anyway, I don't know how great this is. Why does it have Death Rattle tag on it? It's kind of weird. But anyway, my initial instinct is not great, but if there is like a flood card for beasts, then it could get good pretty quick. So, moving on. Literally, to the card that's what I'm talking about here. So we have summon 6/1/1 hounds and that can't fit game beast. So I'm guessing these RC hounds are mech and beast. Oh, those are so cute. Ooh. So this is where, okay, so like this, now I can go back and say, okay, the location's better than I thought, because this is just pretty good anyway, right? Like 6/1/1s obviously don't have rush, so that kind of makes them not quite as good. But they can get buffed. It's like the old rat card that got played, admittedly, for a while. You're going to summon a bunch of things. But with this location now, location is 1, this is 6, fills up your board. Location now triggers and actually almost casts, not obviously directed, but effectively fireball, right? Every turn for 2, you keep them around, etc. So I think this card will be played in a lot of Hunter decks. Anything that plays this will want to play the Jungle Gym. So it's all starting to come together for me a little bit. And then again, we kind of have we have the remote control, which is, I'm guessing it's the same hound. It is. So it's a 1/3 weapon for 2 that after your hero attacks, you summon a 1/1 hound. So it's kind of what we were just talking about. It's another way for us to keep that sort of almost like the Silverhand recruit pressure, because these don't have rush or anything, right? So it's kind of like a lot of the Paladin cards, just by constantly summoning 1/1s and your opponent having to find answers to them. And then if they don't have answers to them, you have, you know, your Jungle Gym or things like that to punish them. So, and even the RC the RC Rampage, like if you keep a couple of them on the board from the weapon and they're not dealing with it, all of a sudden the two, let's say, that you keep on the board get buffed by +1/+1, and then you hit them in the face for 6 with the location. It's starting to kind of make sense in my head a little bit. So I just think remote control will be played in a lot of decks. Obviously, way more so if this had Rush, but 2 mana 1/3 that summons 3 1/1s as well over time. It's just really strong. I think this will be played in everything. Next up, we have our other toy dinosaur, kind of like what we were talking about, which is Painted Canvassaur, which is a 2 mana 3/2. Battlecry, give each other friendly beast a random effect. So I think we had a 3 mana 3/2 beast when Adapt first became a thing, which is effectively what this is doing. But it was like one other beast, where this is every other beast. So that could be really good. Again, you go back to, you have enough mana to summon 6 1/1s, so all of a sudden you give them all Taunt or Divine Shield or Wind Fury, or, you keep them on the board because your opponent's like, oh, they're just 1/1s. You buff them and you play this to give them all, again, best case scenario, Wind Fury or something like that. I think, again, if you're just playing beasts, stats pretty good for 2, potential buff to even 1 minion. Makes this auto play in beasts, in my opinion. Then we have our first legendary, new Hemet, the Foam Marksman, which is a 5 mana 3/6. After a friendly beast dies, get a random legendary beast from the past, and it costs you 2 less. So from the past would be things that are no longer in standard. I mean, again, I think this kind of comes down to, like, initially I almost want to say, well, this isn't great, right? 3/6. But, like, again, if you play the RC cards, 3 of them live. It's kind of like that card that gets played in Death Knight, except it's a 3 mana 3/4, where it's like, yeah, you're not drawing a card, but like there can't be, hopefully, that many legendary beasts. Off the top of my head, I could probably look it up. I'm on the Hearthstone website here. I could probably look that up, but it really just depends on the value you get of those. But in my mind, like, I don't know, 3 mana 3 or 5 mana 3/6. Obviously not great. You probably want 5/6, but if you can trade in 1 or 2, probably 2 would be the breaking point. I mean, you get 2 cards, so it's kind of like draw 2, but they're probably only half value, and they cost 2 less. Though I think this is really good, right? Am I just wrong here? Now, of course, your beasts don't typically have Rush. It looks like in the new package, so you're gonna have to like stick a board, play the Hemet, trade the stuff, get the value later. But I think that's pretty good. And then last but not least, this is one I admit was spoiled for me a little bit. I've seen this shared on, I think, Facebook, weirdly enough, which is King Plush, which is adorable, which is a 9 mana 6/6 with charge instead of the 8/8 with charge. Yeah, King Crush is 8, right? Yeah. But this also has Battlecry return all minions with less attack than this to their owner's decks. So it's like picking up the toys, I'm guessing is the idea, right? He's so fluffy, you're gonna die. Picture the Gru kid, or the kid from Minions or Despicable Me. Sorry, old brain's not working. But yeah, I think this is great. Obviously, that's why they had to keep its attack a little lower, because normally you'd say 9 mana 6/6 is terrible, even with charge. Like, you had Leroy, which I think is coming back. Yeah, he's coming back in standard. So you have like a 5 mana 5 or 6 attack with charge, but it's the fact that, like, your opponent, say maybe they have a little bit of a board, especially if you get this out with the egg, so it's actually 4 mana 6/6 charge, and you put a bunch of useless stuff back on their deck, or little cheap stuff that they're not going to be able to draw and answer your King Plush. It's good. Squeaky toy's good. I think Lorthamar Theron is staying in standard as well. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So if that's the case too, and you double this, also it's 12 attack, you literally just return everything to your opponent's deck, you reset them, you get a big charge. Yeah, don't underestimate the Battlecry. I think this is going to be a very standout card for Hunter this year, or this set. So that's my thoughts on Hunter. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.